Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much for tuning on in. Today we are going to be talking about credit cards, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I guess I'll go through a little order of events here. I'll give you an introduction on the target audience and why you might be interested in a credit card. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the advantages versus the disadvantages of having one and using one. And then going into that a little bit deeper, I'm going to talk about, is it right for you? If you decide that it is, the next section will be on how to acquire a credit card. And then the last section will be what is in my wallet. So, without further ado, let's begin. Who is the target audience? I'll just go on and say, when I was in my early 20s, I wish somebody would have had this talk with me or sat down and just sort of explain things. So the target audience is folks just graduating college, or maybe folks in grad school, early 20s, that are a little bit confused. I know I certainly was in that time. The reason why I'm making this video is, I wish somebody would have told me. So let's get right into it. So let's talk about the advantages versus the disadvantages. We'll start with the advantages to keep things positive, and then we'll turn to the disadvantages to sort of deter folks from doing it. Starting out with the advantages, the first one, and probably the most important to a lot of you, is the rewards, right? You can get cash back on certain purchases at some point. Or if you don't like cash back and you like to fly instead, you can get airline miles. Either way, you get rewards for spending money. Pretty sweet. That's a double-edged sword, but pretty sweet. Then the second thing, probably more important in the long run, is that it's an opportunity to build your credit score. Yeah, you see all the free credit report ads that aren't really free. You wonder, is credit score, is that really necessary at all? I know I was wondering the same thing. It's like, well, why does that matter? Why should it matter? It does, as far as if you're applying for apartments or applying for a home loan. The higher your credit score, the more likely you are to be approved for a loan, and the more likely you are to be approved to live in an apartment. Also, with a higher credit score, it shows that you're a reliable borrower, for lack of a better term. They're going to give you a lower interest rate. That's another perk of building credit. And then finally, the last one, it may be a perk, it may not be a perk, maybe a disadvantage, but that is you can defer payment. You're getting into dangerous territory. At least growing up for me, debt was kind of a four-letter word, right? It was an expletive, it was profanity. You don't want to build up debt, but that being said, you can defer payments. That's actually a disadvantage. Probably the fourth one, which is an advantage, is it's sort of a buffer between your checking account or your savings account and your spending. So if somebody steals your debit card, they got direct access to your checking account, right? But with a credit card, it's got to go through the credit card company first. And they don't have direct access to your checking account. So you can dispute a charge, have it wiped out, and you don't have to worry about getting refunded. Now, most small banks, most local banks are going to just say, okay, yeah, we'll refund that charge since you disputed it on your debit card. But with credit card companies, they have to. It's sort of a buffer in case you have a card number stolen. Okay, so now let's talk about the disadvantages of having and using credit cards. The first one, probably the most obvious, is debt. Debt is a four-letter word, maybe an expletive in some people's vocabulary. I'm looking at you, Dave Ramsey. You can build up debt quickly, and you end up paying a bunch of interest on debt that you owe. And you get nowhere financially. You would have been better off just using a debit card because you're making the monthly minimum payment. Let's say you run up a $3,000 debt, right? You're right at the limit of a $3,000 card. That's great until it isn't. That's because you're paying interest and you're not actually eating into any principal, and you end up wasting a lot of money. And then I guess the second disadvantage is you complicate your life. The more accounts you have open, the more you have to manage, the more you have to monitor. It can be beneficial if you're getting rewards back, but that's one more password you got to remember. Just keep that in mind. So then the third disadvantage, you got a wallet full of cards. And your wallet can only be so big, right? It kind of goes back into the second one of having a lot to manage, but I mean, this is like managing physical items rather than remembering accounts and passwords and whatnot. So if you decide that you are disciplined enough to handle a credit card, you're probably wondering, well, how do I go about getting a credit card? So there's probably 2 or 3 steps, pretty easy. The first one is open a checking account, a savings account, preferably both, at a local bank or a local credit union. I'd say avoid the big banks. Big banks are great for big businesses, but you as a retail consumer, you need to stick with the small bank and the small credit union. So after you got an account open, savings account, checking account, you go up to them and say, hey, I want to open, I want a credit card. I want to open a revolving account. And they're like, cool. And then you will need to provide your social security number and a proof of income. That can be like a pay stub, it can be a tax return. You just need to provide proof of income saying that, hey, if you loan me money with this revolving account, I can pay it off. Then after that, the third step is they'll apply. You'll either get accepted or you'll get rejected. Hopefully you get accepted. After you get accepted, you can start building credit. So just use that card to buy gasoline, buy groceries, buy all that kind of stuff, and immediately pay it off. You don't want to build up any kind of debt. After a few months of that, you can apply for like a rewards card that'll get you those flights, that'll get you those cash back points, whatever you want. You can do that as soon as you got a good enough credit score. And anyway, that's how you go about getting a rewards card and having money work for you a little bit more. So as promised, we're going to go through what's in my wallet. I'll sort of tell you a little bit about my journey, and maybe you can replicate it, or not necessarily replicate it, but use it to learn from, and maybe as a good starting point. Because like I said earlier, I wish somebody would have come up to me and told me, let me tell you what I wish I'd known when I was young and dreamed of credit glory. You do have control on who tells your credit story. So I'll skip the Hamilton references. My first credit card actually was I applied for back in September of 2020, so a little over a year ago. And it was this here Visa Platinum linked to my my credit union account back in Tullahoma. Anyway, just a $500 limit, low interest rate, no rewards, no annual fee. It was great for building credit. I still have it because you want to keep your longest running account to keep your credit score up. That's a topic for a separate video. After I moved down to Albuquerque in this year, I got this here Bank of Albuquerque credit card. This was my first rewards card, no annual fee, a little bit higher interest rate. I get 5% back on fast food and streaming services, and that's nice. I get 1% back on everything else. They gave me a $5,000 limit on this one. And I think part of the reason why is they want me to go into debt, but I pay it off every time, and I'll take my 5% back on Chipotle and burritos that I buy around town when I'm too lazy to cook for myself. Then in June of this year, so 3 months after I got that one, I got this here Amex Blue. It's got a $2,000 limit. I get 6% back on groceries, 3% back on gasoline. It does have an annual fee of $90, maybe $95, but I spend so much money on groceries. It's like if I spent more than $3,000 on groceries, I could justify the cost of this, and I spend more than $60 a week. $2,000 limit on this one. The newest addition to the herd is this here Citi Custom Cash Card. This one here, the reason I got it, it's 5% back on any category that you spend the most in. So if you spend the most on hotels, you get 5% back on hotel expenses that month. If you spend a lot of money on tires, because I'm going to get new tires soon, you get 5% back on automotive repairs and stuff like that. The main reason I got it though is they were offering $300 back when you spend $1,000. I know I'm going to be spending close to that on getting a new set of tires pretty soon. So I'm thinking, well, why not get $300 off that set of tires? I can cancel the card anytime later. I just want that free money. Now, it does complicate my life, and I understand that, but I think in general, I've been responsible, and I'll get that $300 back, and maybe I'll keep the card, maybe I won't, but I do enjoy the free money. So with that, that sort of concludes the video. If y'all have any questions, leave it down in the comments below. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. And thank y'all so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. I'm out.